Welcome, everyone, to the Chillin' with the Villain podcast. It's been quite the few weeks in professional wrestling. Pretty busy, quite a lot's going on. Last week, we covered WrestleMania 40, WrestleMania XL, and you all loved that so much. We thought, you know what? Covering this contemporary wrestling, it's not what we set out to do, but you people, the listeners, you seem to like it. And this week was another big week for professional wrestling, maybe for different reasons. And there was a very controversial episode of AEW Dynamite. And the listeners have been asking, Marty, Villain, what did you think of this whole ordeal? So today's episode, we will be covering AEW Dynamite from this past Wednesday, which would have been the, 10th?
Yeah.
The 10th of April, 2024. So if you're an AEW fan, stay tuned. And even if you're not, stay tuned to see what we thought of this show. I probably should introduce myself. I am the villain, Marty Skirl, and joining me, as always, is the producer of the show, Samuel Scott. Sam, we're delving back into All Elite Wrestling. How do you feel about that?
I feel pretty good. So I think the timing of this is nice for us because we have been up in WWE's stuff for like quite a while now, and I just felt like a change. So the fact that something, talk-worthy is happening on AEW at the exact same time where I felt that way is good timing. It's good timing. Did you notice, though, last week's episode was WrestleMania 40 and Chilling with the Villain episode 40?
Yeah, you told me this
That's
afterwards.
cool, right? Yeah.
I kind of wish we caught on at the time of recording. But yeah, 40, which also means that we're not a million miles off from a year of this podcast. Yeah. Which is pretty crazy. But no, episode 40, yeah. If you people enjoyed last week, obviously hit us up on the social media and let us know what you thought about the episode. I did have a handful of listeners reaching out to me already to kind of give me their points of view on our points of view. Someone said to me...
So now you're going to do it back on them.
Someone said to me that, because we were questioning why Seth Rollins ran out dressed up as the Shield with the Shield music. And for me, I thought that was one of the worst parts of the whole ordeal, or the whole show, really. And someone said that Rollins, in a promo, I guess, said a month ago that he'd been Cody's Shield. So that's why he came out to that. And the chair shot from Roman was to mirror the one that Seth gave him back in the day when Rollins turned on Reigns, which I understood that part. I know that. But I still just thought, why, from a kayfabe standpoint, was Rollins playing mind games? Is that why he had to come out dressed up as the Shield and everything else? Because also, we did see Rollins earlier in this show as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, as himself.
Right.
I'm still not a big fan.
Yeah, it made him look crazy. Like, not in a good way, And also, sorry, Seth, like, I love the Shield, but like, you without the other two, you're just Seth Rollins. Like, the Shield isn't just one person.
It'd be like Triple H coming out and being like, I'm DX.
It's just him.
Right. Yeah. It's like, no, it's Triple H.
Right. Yeah.
It's funny because I feel as if we may be the only people that didn't think that whole ordeal was absolutely amazing. To me, it seemed like, I know we've already done this review, but to me, it seemed like doing moments for the sake of moments. And I just think if you're going to do a Shield reunion or whatnot, you should make it at least where he comes out as a Shield, he's successful, not just getting beaten up right away. So, I mean, it's interesting to hear what the viewers thought, but for the most part, it seems that a lot of people really, really enjoyed WrestleMania, which is good. I'm happy about that.
Yeah. I mean, we enjoyed it too.
Yeah, I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it. But also, obviously, we're here to review and critique and everything else.
Yes.
So, and I'm positive we brought up a lot of points that a lot of other reviews or podcasts did not. So if you haven't listened to last week's yet, then please go check it out, WrestleMania XL. But let's do a change of pace. Let's get into AEW Dynamite. It's been in the news a lot recently.
It has indeed.
Saying that the Young Bucks are going to reveal the footage, CCTV footage from, actually the way they actually advertised it, I think they advertised it as Young Bucks will show backstage footage from All In for the first time. Mm-hmm. So it could have actually been anything.
Right.
But I guess it got leaked to the websites or the sheets, whatever you want to call them, that it was this CCTV footage with Punk and everything else, which they kind of alluded to anyway. But they didn't necessarily advertise that. It wasn't like, we're showing the backstage fight from Wembley with CM Punk and Jack Perry. So, and I'm sure there's loads of legal ramifications for that, I guess. But it's been a big discussion and topic in the wrestling world. So, yeah, let's not waste any time. Let's get into AEW Dynamite.
Let's get into it. Yeah. Sorry, guys. There's some matches to talk about first before we get to that. So, or is there a match? Because this is AEW Dynamite, April 10th, 2024. It starts off with Swerve Strickland and Samoa Joe. Okay. Now, I couldn't tell if this was a match, and we'll explain why, or like a recap of something that happened that just happened to look like it was happening right then. Was this supposed to be, was the idea? So what happened was Joe was making his way to the ring and Swerve attacked him, and then like nothing else happened. They cut to something else, but they made it seem like it was supposed to be the opening match. Did I misread this?
My understanding, it was supposed to be Samoa Joe versus Dustin Rhodes, but on Samoa Joe's entrance, Swerve attacked him. So the match was kind of off, or at least until later.
And then they had the same match later. Gotcha. All
Which is a little bit contrived, because why would Samoa Joe come out first? But I mean, whatever. That's super duper nitpicking. But yeah, basically Joe was making his way to the ring. Shane Strickland, or Swerve Strickland, sorry, who's facing Joe at the next pay-per-view for the world title, came out. They had quite the fight, and it ended with Swerve putting Joe through the table and then raising the AEW World Championship. Did this make you interested in seeing that world title match at AEW Dynasty?
So honestly, I just like both guys anyway.
Yeah.
So like I was already interested, but I guess it kind of would. You know, I don't watch the shows, but I kind of enjoy AEW pay-per-view. So we'd probably be, and we have this podcast, so we'd probably be watching it anyway, and that would be one of the more enjoyable parts that I'd be looking forward to anyway. But I do like the I will say AEW do attempt to drum up, and I mean this Young Bucks thing later we'll talk about. I do feel like they really do put good attempts in at like drumming up interest in pay-per-views. I will say that.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm going to tell you what I liked about this. I like the idea of starting the show kind of hot or with an angle.
Yes,
I think the idea that, you know, it's a bit of chaos, I think, is good to start a wrestling show. I think, obviously, both, like you said, both guys are great. But both guys are professionals. Joe, he seems like a placeholder for the World Championship, and that's cool. That's fine, right? Because it seems like we're going to crown Strickland as the first champion, which I think is great. But they've given him a great foil in Samoa Joe to defeat. And at least Joe, even though he is very popular, he's still on the hillside, and he's still a guy that can bully him and everything else. It's like, I don't think you saw this, but last week they had Mark Briscoe finally winning the World Championship in Ring of Honor, and which to me, I mean, maybe it still was, but like that should have been such a huge, massive moment, which I guess it was, because it's like, you know, Mark had been in Ring of Honor for 20 years, he never won the world title, and it's like he's doing it for his brother Jay. But they had him defeat another babyface for it, and also like an underdog babyface in Eddie Kingston. And I thought, and I'm sure it was a good match. I haven't seen it yet, and I love both guys, but I kind of wish Mark could have defeated a heel to get that moment. So I think Joe is like, I'm glad that it's Joe.
Perfect foil for that.
Right, for Strickland. That being said, are they too late with pulling the plug with Strickland? Because it seems like he was peaked super duper hot. I'd say he still is hot, but maybe not as hot as he was a few months ago. And now it seems like the AEW fan base is going more so for Ospreay. And it's like maybe they should have just, done it already. Like I'm a big believer in striking whilst the iron is hot.
Yeah.
And a lot of wrestling companies in the past have fluffed up by not doing that. They haven't completely missed it. I'm pretty sure he's going to win this week or next week, whenever it is. But yeah, that did cross my mind. And now just quickly, the criticisms of this. I personally, maybe this is just a me thing, I hate it when challengers raise the world championship, like the belt that's not theirs. I just don't. It's a big pet peeve of mine, and they do that all the time in AEW.
Do you think it's a tired trope, or do you find it disrespectful? Like, what is actually your peeve?
I just feel like you shouldn't touch the championship unless you're the champion. You know what I mean? Like, especially not raise it. I just don't think.
So if
anyone
they really cared about the championship, which is why they're doing the stuff in the first place, they would also like hold it in that respect, like, and not do that. No.
Could you imagine like a swimmer running up and grabbing the medal, the gold medal before the race, and be like, yeah, or a football player grabbing the World Cup and holding it up? It's kind of like, don't do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I guess it is a respect.
Earn it,
earn it, yeah. And to me, I'd want the first time it touched the championship to be like when it's mine. Do you know, when I've won it, when I've earned it. So that's just a pet peeve of mine. But also, and this is kind of a criticism for AEW as a whole, they really need to work on their outs. Like, their outs can be very, very awkward. And I felt like this one was really awkward. Me. It was like, it should have ended in chaos. Do you know what I mean? It should have been to the point where like Joe's gone for the table and the commentators should have been going, oh my God, it's chaos. What's going to happen? Oh no, is Joe going to be able to wrestle tonight? We've got to go back to, whoever's in the back or whatever. Like they've run out of time. But instead, it was kind of, the commentary didn't do a good job here. They were just like, oh, what's going to happen here, guys? And it was just kind of awkward. The pop had died down. It was silent. They kept the camera on Joe. And then Joe just kind of like got up and kind of brushed it off and walked to the back. Like, why are you filming him like getting up from this? And so it just needed so much more energy from the commentators. I thought this should be a big deal. Someone getting attacked on their entrance and going for a table, the world champion, that should be treated like a big deal. I mean, they treated the backstage fight with CM Punk as a really big deal. So treat this like a big deal as well. Do you know what I mean?
I totally agree. That lack of urgency and shock from the commentary team was actually what made me believe, oh, they're watching a recap. They've seen
right. Yeah. Like when back in the day when Austin think about how the commentators would be when Austin was attacking Vince back in the day. Be going absolutely
they're
crazy.
Incredulous. They go insane.
They wouldn't just be calling the action, would they? They would just be like, oh, Stone Cold with a chair shot to Vince McMahon. Oh, do you know what I mean? So that I felt like they need to work on those outs and those transitions and the flow of the show.
I have a question for you about this, about AEW, and I don't want it to sound disrespectful, but I think it's kind of important to ask. Do you feel like AEW is not a new company anymore? Do you feel like they should have kind of got this stuff down by now? Like, I want to see it happen, and I really want them to get as good as they can be. But I mean, how long has it been?
They've been around for like 5 years now. I don't think they've been doing TV that long. Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, it's live TV. Honestly, it's it's probably just a case of getting things planned in advance and everything else. And like, I don't know. It's live TV, so it's never going to be absolutely perfect, I guess. But this is one again, and this might be something that they don't really realize and don't think like needs work, so they might not even be working on it. So yeah, I mean, personally though, I would watch that and be like, okay, the ending felt a bit flat. We've got to work on that out big time.
Right, yeah. Because like, it's not like it's me and my friends having a wrestling event, right? Like, they've got real talent there. Like, the commentary team on AEW is amazing, and I feel like they should know how to sell that. And I don't think it's a problem with the talent. There's something going on.
Yeah,
strange.
Well, I wanted to take a minute to talk about our newest sponsor, madcatbeardcare.com. Myself, I have a beard. Sam, you have a beard. Beards are very popular now, but you've got to take care of your beard. You got to get yourself over to madcatbeardcare.com. I'm looking at the oils and the balms on there. First of all, they're all designed by different pro wrestlers and marketed as different pro wrestlers. So there's a bunch of guys involved with this, like Matt Cardona, Brian Myers, Delirious, Jay Lethal, a whole collection of awesome wrestlers that have their own product on madcatbeardcare.com. Not only that, but a portion of the profits go to cat rescues around the country. So I think that's already exciting. But the beard oils and the balms both are made from organic argan oil, jojoba, and vitamin E, which when combined helps to soften, strengthen, and vitalize and stimulate circulation in the face, nourishing and strengthening the hair follicles to assist growth. Now, this is what you need. If you've got a patchy beard, you need to get yourself to madcatbeardcare.com. The balms also include the same oil and mixture as the oils, but he adds the shea butter, which helps alleviate itch and irritation to your face, while also helping control pesky stray hairs by allowing you to style them into place. He uses local organic beeswax that helps to get more of a hold to your style. So you got to look after your skin underneath your beard just like you do your scalp. Like, these aren't things that you can neglect. And that's why we've teamed up with madcatbeardcare.com. And right now, just for listening to the show, you can get yourself a whopping 15% off products at madcatbeardcare.com by using the code VILLAIN. That's 15% for the promo code VILLAIN. That's VILLAIN. Pick yourself up the Villain's Curse, my own beard oil, my own beard balm. That's exactly what I use every day on my face to make my famous beard look beautiful. You can do the same thing too. So last time I'm going to say it, get yourself over now to madcatbeardcare.com. Promo VILLAIN. The show started with the TNT Championship.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, with Edge, Adam Copeland, and your boy, well, he's not your boy, is he?
No,
Penta?
he's not.
Not
No, he's
your
disgusting.
boy at all. He's anything but, yeah. So, yeah, for TNT Championships. So I really like both guys. I think they're super, super talented. And I actually really like a lot of stuff that is going on in this match. It was over 20 minutes long.
Yes.
And I know they did the picture-in-picture and stuff, but like in a match that's, I mean, when AEW cut to commercials, you get the picture-in-picture and it carries on and stuff like that. I'm not a big fan of having a 20-minute match as the first real match after all of that, because I don't know. I really liked everything in ring, but I still felt a little off about this. What about you, my man?
I thought it was a very good match, as to be expected. Edge is great. Penta's great. I've been saying for the longest time, despite how Penta treated me in Tijuana, Penta should get a push in AEW. My issue is it's a 20-minute match where the audience knows that Penta is not going to win.
Yes,
like, he hasn't been built up to win this match at all. So I just think and that's probably one of my biggest criticisms of AEW. I feel like you pretty much always know who's going to win, like 95% of the time it feels. And for a match where you knew who the winner was going to be, I don't know if it needed to go over 20 minutes. If Penta had been built up or there'd been some kind of backstory to this, then yeah, absolutely. I think otherwise just don't do it, because I don't feel like it's worth wasting someone like Penta. This could be a pay-per-view match, both guys are great. But I really would like to see Penta get a singles run in AEW. I think you kind of, in this day and age, like, you kind of need to have like a luchador. Like, Lucha Libre has such an influence on the business now and the wrestling style. So, and WWE even has a lot of focus on it, it seems. But I would like to see either Penta or Phoenix, ideally both, kind of in that main event picture. It's like, you got to start elevating and pushing guys. Like you said, AEW's been around for 4 or 5 years now. Yeah. You can't have people, well, you can, but can't be everyone, like, in the same position they were 4 or 5 years ago. And I don't really know it. Like, Penta, he's probably in a very similar position now as to when he brought him in, So, and obviously that's no critique on him whatsoever. I think he's great, but it's like, could we start having him build up the card? And I know the issue is there's so many wrestlers, so there's only so much you can do, and so much TV time you can give people. That being said, you want to highlight other people, you probably don't need to be doing 20-minute matches. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
You could have done 10 minutes and then given someone else some time, or whatever, or told a bit more of a story with this, So, but the match itself, and this is AEW in a nutshell, isn't it? If you like wrestling, if you're here for wrestling, you're gonna exactly. Love it. I can't remember if it was this match or maybe the Shibata one, but I think it was this match. They cut to the commercial break, and you still have the picture-in-picture, but you lose the audio, and like that's when the chops happened. And I was like, you don't want to see the chops; you're here to hear the chops. And like the moment
they do that, that's when the chops come out. I was like, yeah, of course. Right? So like, it just lost so much of the impact there. Yeah, that's a mini criticism, but one nonetheless. All right. So then, speaking of Shibata, actually, Chris Jericho, Hook, and Shibata had like a backstage interview with Renee Paquette.
Yeah.
But let's. Not much to say there. Should we move on to what?
Well, actually, I do want to say something. Okay. I thought the Shibata using the translator thing was really funny.
I thought it was funny.
I thought it was a good gimmick, but I feel like he should be typing it out though. It was so obvious.
Oh, yeah, that would be funny. Yeah, that would be so funny as well.
It would just be more realistic. Like, it was so obvious that it was all fake.
Pre-done, yes.
All pre-done. It's like, just have him look down and type for at least a couple of seconds and then it plays. That would be like... It was, I don't know, it was a really funny bit, but the execution, I thought, he just missed but they say like God is in the details. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
That just came across as stagey. And I thought the idea was great, but just have him type it out and then play it. That would be a really fun gimmick, I think. And there's probably a lot of cool things you could probably do with it. Do you know what I mean?
Right. And like, you could really pace the comedy by having those moments of where he's typing away. You don't know what he's going to say.
Yeah.
It's going to be,
and it's like, let's give these wrestlers that some of the audience may not know, like a Shibata who's strictly been a wrestler in Japan, and let's give them
personality.
Give them a gimmick, give them something for
totally.
the crowd to hang their hat on, and Shibata is one of the best in the ring, but then, like, if you can make people super interested in stuff he does outside the ring as well, I think that would be a winning combination personally.
Cool. No, I agree. That would be a good improvement. I'd like to see that. So Young Bucks backstage having a talk to the camera. FTR, right, is basically this whole thing is like a build up to a match, and I find that kind of important about what we're going to say, because I think that's also like one of the big, like, you could go two ways about what we're going to talk about. Do you actually want to introduce this bit? Probably going to do a better job than me on this one. Okay, so
basically the idea is that obviously there was the Punk got in a backstage fight with Jack Perry. Everyone, I'm assuming who's listening to this knows this. And then a week or so ago, CM Punk did a podcast with Ariel Helwani, essentially kind of burying AEW.
Right.
And it just so happens that the Bucks have an upcoming tag team title match with FTR, because it's the finals of a tag tournament, because the tag team titles have been vacated because Sting retired. So I assume that this is like showing this footage, this real life footage is, it's off the back of the Ariel Helwani podcast.
Yes.
But they're portraying it as a way to build this tag team match.
Yes.
Now, first things first, I thought was really funny was in the background on the whiteboard, they had, what was it, like CCTV footage pre-tape 4 p.m. or whatever it was. Like, I don't know. I found that really funny.
I didn't see.
Little Easter egg, yeah.
Okay.
But no, so this has been very decisive online, and it seems like people either thought it was like the worst thing ever, or people thought, okay, this is entertaining or whatnot, right?
Right.
And I guess I can see like an argument for both, but in my head, I'm thinking, like, I haven't watched Dynamite for a long time, it feels. And when this was announced, I was like, oh, well, I'll definitely have to watch that. And I'm sure a lot of people felt that way. So in my head, I'd rather them do something like this than just like another like dream indie match.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think, like, when people are kind of saying like, how bad this was, or it's like, death to a company, I'm just thinking like, dude,
no.
Like, think of all the stuff that's happened in the WWE land over the years, like, and they're being completely fine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't see it like that at all. And if anything, I guess my biggest criticism of it is this. So they're showing this backstage fight, but AEW, like, every week on TV has backstage attacks, and they don't typically look like this. So it's kind of like, what? So what are we saying here? That this one's a real one, but the ones every week are fake? Do you know what I mean?
Right, yeah. But this one you need to care about.
Yeah, exactly. Like this, we've seen people get like thrown through tables backstage and knocked out and everything
Going downstairs.
else. Right, exactly. But if anything, what we could take from this, I think if I'm running a wrestling company, whether I'm WWE or AEW, I want to present angles like this. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no reason why this couldn't have been a work. And it'd have been great. Do you know what I mean? Like, next time, rather than doing like a phony backstage beatdown, why don't you just have like, oh, we've got word that these guys got in a fight. You know what I mean? Like, and then you talk about it on one week's episode. The next week's episode, you're like, oh, we've actually got the CCTV footage. That would make it seem pretty believable, huh? Do you know what I mean? Like, I know that's essentially what's happened here, but I think, well, now we know what a real fight looks like. Let's present it like
make
this.
it look like that. That's actually a really good kind of positive takeaway. Is like they could learn from this for like storyline sakes. This is kind of cool. This is good material. Yeah. This reminds me of like Monday Night Wars style kind of guerrilla stuff. And I think some people will say that like that's their reason for saying like this is not cool. But I actually kind of like this sort of blurring the lines and like having little pot shots and stuff like Sega and Nintendo used to do it. Like, what's wrong with having little digs? My problem, so I'm actually for this. Yeah. My personal issue is, if it was me, I wouldn't have run this footage anyway, just because of like the nature of it. Just like I wouldn't want to kind of like kiss and tell, but that's just my personal thing. I just feel like we'll talk about Will Ospreay in a minute. There's another dig at WWE later, and I think we get to that. See, I think because I personally think that was worse than this, and I don't really hear people saying that. This, I like the premise, like I'm all for, right, and the concept of what's happened now, I'm all for. Even though I personally wouldn't have done it, but I just think like those two things together make me feel like Tony Khan's just like incapable. If people go low, just go high, dude. Like, why do you like? He just seems kind of petty when all these things are starting to add up. It's like this is not like your one and only dig. You've got two now. I just feel like, do you know what I mean? Like, it just makes them look petty, and I think that they could. I feel like they could still do these things in a way that makes them look. Yeah, I think, and that to me that was a big part of that. What do you reckon?
I'd agree with that. I think if you're going to do that, the Ospreay one we'll get into in a second.
Yeah, sorry for jumping forward.
Which I wasn't a big fan. I mean, I love Ospreay, of course,
obviously.
But I also think the fact that the footage thing had happened also hurt the Ospreay thing.
I just think the whole thing. No,
I do think this would have been. I think people. The only reason why people are saying are not liking this is because it's 8 or 9 months after the incident happened. I feel like if they did this a couple of weeks after the incident happened, everyone would be saying it was genius and great. Yeah. I think it's the fact that people think, okay, we've moved on from CM Punk and whatnot. But I'm also thinking, well, they're doing the Bucks and FTR again for the 4th time. It's like, how do we get people interested? Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, we can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. And you know what I mean? So I think that's the mindset. But yeah, that's probably why people don't like it, because it's kind of, 9 months or whatever it was removed from when it happened. But no, it again, like I said, the Ospreay one, I was like, ugh. What's the next match? Is Shane Taylor's promotion?
It's Shane Taylor Productions, Promotions, whatever it's called. Yeah. And then, well, actually, so we should probably say FTR then had a response after this.
Yes.
We should probably bring that up. Yeah. So go ahead.
Well, FTR cut the promo afterwards, to try and build it up. So it did seem like they were trying to tie everything into this tag match. Like, I guess the argument would be like, okay, has it made you more interested in these guys wrestling? I just think both of them are just amazing tag teams. So for me, you don't even really need a story. It's going to be a great match. But then here I am most of the time complaining things need story.
There's no story.
So I'm not going to complain. I'm not, What about you?
I like that AEW are self-aware enough to know that. So FTR basically said that the Bucks are looking petty from this,
right? Yeah,
and I think that's good. Like that they're actually like bringing this to. It's not like it's completely lost on them. Right. So I appreciate that, and I think they called them. I can't remember the name of the Flanders' kids from The Simpsons.
Yeah, Ron something.
I can't remember. But yeah, whatever it was, and I just thought that was kind of funny because the way the Bucks kind of built up this video, and it was just like, I'm not trying to downplay workplace violence or whatever, but it was just like a shove. And how they're saying it wasn't even the fight, it was the fact that like it it just like threw them so badly that they forgot to like hydrate and like pray. It was just so funny.
And that's the shoot as well.
Then them calling it, they are Christian boys. Yes, they do. And it's just like the fact that threw them off so much. And that's their grievance. So that's why they're playing footage like months later. It's just, I think it's very funny for the
kind of a clever way.
Like, it's clever, yeah. And for FTR to kind of address all of that directly was, almost. I felt like that could also kind of, maybe it was to kind of shield criticism up front because they knew they might get some for playing the video. Sure. And I think they did it the best way that they could. Yeah.
Kind of the FTR were the voice for the people that didn't like it.
Yes, basically, yes. So I feel like you had both camps. I think that was clever and that was good.
I'm not the biggest believer in all publicity is good publicity.
Right.
But I just think as well, it's with AEW, I feel like they felt like they needed to try and win some more of the traffic because everything's been so WWE recently. Everyone's talking about everything that WWE's doing, and it's been so on fire. And it's kind of like, okay, they've had their WrestleMania now. How can we swift the chat or the interest or the buzz back in AEW's favor? It's like we need to do something pretty drastic. And I guess you could argue this was pretty drastic, but it's like I think it's great that they're attempting to make some noise, if that makes sense.
Oh, I totally agree. I do agree. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a match next. And I think this is also a big problem, is it was the Will Ospreay interview straight after this. So it's not like you even had time to come down off it. It's like you can't help but make the comparison or be like, oh, okay, now they're burying WWE again, like straight after. And that was my main criticism. So yeah, before the match with Chris Jericho, it's actually the Will Ospreay interview, which I guess we'll talk about now. So Will is being interviewed by Renee Paquette, and he is saying, well, first of all, he's looking and acting and sounding like someone I'd try and avoid in a Wetherspoons. And I don't know if anyone in the US will understand that, but people in the UK will know, they'll know his archetype and they'll know Wetherspoons and they'll know what we're talking about. Good old Will. But anyway, he is talking, he's lamenting the fact that there was like a rumor that somebody's saying that he was afraid of the grind, and he's coming up. That was a dig at Triple H said that, apparently. I had to look this up about some talent. He wasn't named as Will Ospreay, but Will Ospreay, and people think it's referring to him. And Will's response is, he travels to the US. Apparently he lives in the UK, and I didn't know that. I thought he'd live in the US.
Yeah, he
travels
does.
like every week to work, and he's delivering. And when he does, he delivers these 5-star, A-star matches, best matches the world has ever seen, or stuff is like true. And then he made, which is cool. Like, it's okay to address that, right, in a subtle way. But then he said, I've got it up here. The person who made the comment, bear in mind, this is Triple H, is only in the position he was in. Like, he's saying, I'm afraid of the grind, but he's only in the position he's in because he's grinding on the boss's daughter. Now, that's like, I get what you're trying to do, but like, you don't talk about someone's like wife and husband, like it's a little, yeah, come on, bro. Like, I don't know. It's a little distasteful, a little bit. I know he's from Essex, and we know all this. We know the type of people that, but like, come on. I felt that was a bit below.
It's funny that that's your point, because that wasn't my issue, but that is actually pretty funny now that's what you took from it. Because it's like, yeah, he's not banging her, like he's married and they have children and stuff together.
Yeah, they're a family, Right. It's a little, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Am I being too pious and moral on this
episode?
No,
I thought, mate, I didn't. It's funny that you bring that up because I didn't even really think about that. Obviously, of course, I love Will and what he does, and he's not a bad talker either. He's quite good at kind of communicating,
commanding and communicating.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he's working off a script or anything. That being said, I guess my critique was like you said, you had to look it up. So that's a big issue. I just think like that only makes sense to the viewers that are watching the show that also spend their time on online wrestling like websites. Do you know what I mean? Or wrestling Twitter. So I just think, imagine if you were watching a Netflix series and you had to constantly go online to actually find out other parts that didn't happen in the actual show on
Right.
Netflix. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that you're supposed to know. So like that, I guess, kind of bothered me. But I guess you could argue, well, again, the Bucks one I felt like fit more into the storyline. This also like did not achieve anything in terms of
furthering his thing with Daniel Bryan. Yeah,
Daniel Bryan. Unless Bryan came out and said, "I'm disgusted that you said that about my friend," that would have probably been better. Also the vid, he's only there because of his banging the boss's daughter. Banging the boss's daughter. I feel like that you could have had a way better
zinger
on Triple H. Yeah, zinger on Triple H. There's so much more I feel like you could have said. And I feel like that one was something that was used 20 years ago. And now it's kind of like Triple H has kind of proven himself, right? That he's more than deserving of his spot. And like also you're doing this like the week or two after everyone is praising Triple H.
The WrestleMania.
Being like, thank you for making wrestling cool again. Like, Paul Levesque is the wrestling god now. Thank you, Paul. So I don't know if the timing was good in that. And I understand how Will would
feel upset by the comment.
Be upset from the comment, even though he didn't name him. And honestly, it's probably just Triple H he's just doing PR work. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He lost out on these free agents. He's just trying to, make it sound better. But I think he could have said, like, listen, Triple H, like, I'm not afraid of the grind. I'm not afraid of the grind. I just decided to take more money for less work. Do you know what I mean? Or I decided not to take less money for more work. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm a businessman, everything else. I'm a family man, just like you. Like, you'd have to be, I know I've been accused of being an idiot, but you'd have to be a real numpty to take less money for more work.
Take your offer,
or whatever. I mean, and he could have also thrown a zinger at Triple H. And I'm sure he could have come up with something creative.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just felt like maybe it should have been thought through a little bit more. And I'm going to say this every week. I know what Will was going for with his get up. Mm-hmm. I just wish he would, if I was in control, we say this, if I was booking, I would want to present Will like the biggest star in the world, and he would be dressed to the absolute nines, and he would have an entourage with him and security, and he would just look the bee's knees. Absolutely. Do you know what I mean? And I would present him as this big attraction. So like, I'm talking, not ripping it off, but similar vein to a Floyd Money Mayweather,
like Ric Flair
or Conor McGregor, or Ric Flair even, but bigger if you can. Like they have the resources to make it bigger,
like if we know that he flies to the US every week, like you said, Tony's got a jet, like make it appear like he's flying on a jet every week across the thing, like it could easily be done. Yeah. Well, it's your idea, but if we now know that he's announced that he flies every week, like, and you think it's in the way he's dressed, he's on like a Spirit Airlines or like a coach sort of thing,
Well, the thing is, he's definitely flying first class.
Yeah, I know he is, but he's making it look like he's not.
Yes,
which is your point, right?
Yes,
make it look like he's flying on a private jet, for sure.
Will, if you're listening, I doubt you are. I love you. You're getting paid millions of dollars now. Go out and get yourself some. I've been shopping with Osprey before in New York City. We went out for the day. In New York City, and we both spent like over $1,000 each. And this was, 6 or 7 years ago. So you would have got a lot more for it then. But we went clothes shopping, and we were buying sneakers and clothes and just having a jolly good time. And I'm sure Will does have loads of nice suits and stuff. But yeah, I feel like he should. Yeah, I'm guessing he doesn't want to travel with a suit, But yeah, we can move on from this.
We can move on. I just think both of those.
Do you think is something? So you think now they've got these things out of their system? Next week they've just got to completely ignore everything and just concentrate on the show itself, or you think this should be a consistent thing?
I think they're gonna know that everyone's talking about it.
So you think they're gonna keep doing it?
I think they might keep doing it, and that's not a problem in and of itself. I just hope that it comes it's not going to come from an organic place. Like, at least if they feel hurt, if the execution was good, at least they're coming from an organic place. I just want to clap back. But just doing it, if they start doing it for the sake of doing it because they know it gets a reaction, I think that won't be a good design. That's just a fear. I may be completely wrong, but again, my real issue with these two things is I think either of these little digs, either of these little jabs would have been absolutely fine if they were both executed a little more tactfully, especially Will's one, but also in isolation. And to me, it's just the combination of both of these back to back paints AEW or paints Tony in like a way that I don't think that they intended.
Sure.
And that's my feedback. I feel like if he knew that Will wanted to clap back at Triple H, he could say, well, the Bucks are airing their footage. Let's just breathe, let me do it next week. Something to that effect. I think two of them right back to back. It was, it just makes them look petty if that wasn't supposed to be what they were going for. I just feel like the execution was a little flawed on that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now we get a real wrestling match. There we go. It's felt like quite a while, right? But no, so it's Chris Jericho, Hook, and Shibata, who we saw earlier, versus Shane Taylor Promotions. So I didn't know who Lee Moriarty was. I know Anthony Ogogo, obviously, and Shane Taylor. So it was a 6-man, 3 and 3.
Yes.
Chris Jericho starts, right? Pretty good match. His classic Hurricane Rana from the top rope, all of that good stuff. There was lots of like distractions and messing around, which I'm happy with. All of that good stuff. I didn't actually notice how long this was, but I believe it was under 10 minutes, because if I don't notice how long it was, then it's probably the right duration for me personally. Sure. So it seemed to be like short and sweet and a good match with good competitors. What do you reckon?
Yeah, obviously this match was just to further the storyline, I guess, between Hook and Jericho. Obviously, it's smart having Hook work with a veteran like Jericho because Hook's been there. I'm pretty sure he just like started wrestling in AEW. So he's still probably very sort of inexperienced. And for him to get, where he needs to be, working with people like Jericho, obviously that's great. Hook, I feel like someone, when I first saw him wrestle, I thought, oh man, I see a lot of potential in this guy. Like he's got something to him. I could really see him doing something. And that was about 3 years ago. And I kind of feel like he still hasn't progressed too much since then. I would have liked to have seen a lot more sort of progress from him. It sounds like I'm being critical of him. But I'm not, because like I said, as a fan, I just feel like he hasn't developed as much as he should have done. Do you know what I mean? Like by now he should have evolved, I think, a lot more. But maybe working with Jericho is going to help him do that. You know what I mean? That would be the idea. I don't know. I think if Jericho turns on Hook, it's going to be kind of too predictable. Maybe they'll have Hook turn on Jericho, and maybe having Hook turn heel will help him kind of develop into something else or give him the kind of push that he needs. But that's pretty much my thoughts watching this match.
Yeah. Next, we have Okada, who is your boy, unlike Penta, against I had to write down Cristiano Argento. So I don't know who that is. So you just know
it's a job guy.
Okada's right, exactly. So you know what's going to happen. And yeah, I think this was under 2 minutes long. I don't really understand the point of this. I guess it's just to get Okada in front of the cameras to announce that he accepts Pac's challenge at Dynasty. I think it is. So the next paper. Yeah. So I think that's all it was. It was another kind of build up for the pay-per-view, which is fine. So yeah, it was, you call these a squash match, right?
Yeah, just a get over match for Okada. It seems like the gimmick is that he's acting like he's bored when he's wrestling, which is kind of fun, I think. And again, I'm actually been impressed with how I thought bringing in Okada and turning him heel and having him with the Bucks was a really nice move, rather than just being there and just being a great Japanese wrestler that has great matches. It's like they're doing something. And I'm positive the match with Pac should be phenomenal. So very, very excited for that one.
Awesome. So next we have a segment with this whole thing felt kind of a little bit off and random. Maybe I'm just misreading something, but there's a really strange segment with Thunder Rosa, Deonna, and Tony Storm, where I can't remember exactly what they're doing, but they're all up at the top entrance, and
They were
then
doing
just,
a
like, all
toast or
hell-
something.
a toast or like a champagne toast, and then all hell just broke loose because Tony Storm started attacking Thunder Rosa, and I thought, what is the point of all this? And then it's just like a Mariah May and Anna Jay match, and then just like the match just happened, and I was kind of lost at why there was this thing at the start. But yeah, I guess now we're just talking about the match between the women. But it was just such a weird setup.
Well, I think they're doing Rosa and Tony at the pay-per-view, but I felt like this segment was kind of awkward, and it kind of made Rosa look silly because she agreed
to it because she agreed
Tony's toast or whatever, and then Tony just beat her up right away. I thought,
and then rubbed her makeup off. Yeah,
I was like, yeah, that was an awkward segment, I thought. And
I agree.
And they kind of put the women's segments together, so they had the match, Mariah May and Anna Jay. No, it rhymes.
It does.
I would Anna Jay. She's another one that when I first saw her, I was like, oh, she's got potential to be a superstar, and I believe she still does. I just think she needs that, whatever it is, to take it to the next level. She needs it, but to me, it seems like she has all the tools to do it, to be like a really, really big star. So I just don't know if it's a case of when they signed to AEW so early in their careers. Like I believe she got signed to AEW after after 8 matches or something. I don't know if they get the opportunity to wrestle enough on AEW where they can really get good. I feel like you got to get reps in, and you got to be out wrestling every day if you can. And for someone like her, maybe tours of Japan or wherever, Canada or whatever she can do, would really, really help her, because I do think she could be a big star. So I just hope we get to see it one day.
Let's hope. Yep, they kept this under 10 minutes, and that's like a complaint for some people, right? That the women don't get enough time. I felt like it was the exact right time.
Yeah, but then
but I want to talk about something happened after, another afterbirth, because it's AEW. I didn't get this person's name, but she's from Stardom. I don't know if you know who this person is. Did you get her name?
Dude, so I don't know what her name was. But I did not know who it was.
No. Okay.
And
I assumed you would have. So if you don't know who it is,
that's the problem.
Right. Mina Shirakawa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's an issue because, and I'm sure she's like great and awesome. And she seemed like she had charisma from what she did. But from my understanding, what I think this was there's a company in Japan called Stardom.
Yes.
Mariah May was there. Yeah, Mariah May was there before AEW, or did tours there. She was in a group, and in this group was this, what was her name?
Mina Shirakawa.
And so now Mina's popped up in AEW, and I guess they're trying to tell like Mariah May in the middle storyline. But like, I'm not too sure how many people are going to be aware that Mariah May was with this Mina girl in Stardom. So I don't know. It seemed to me this was another like, oh, we're just assuming the audience knows, which I don't like. And
I don't think this time they did.
If I didn't know,
there was no reaction.
If I didn't know who this woman was, then chances are the majority of people didn't.
Right.
And it's like I think I saw some clips of her afterwards, and I was like, oh, like from like her doing an entrance somewhere. And I was like, wow, she seems like she's got a lot of charisma, and this probably could be, something. It's like if you were going to bring her in, maybe again, just talk about the presentation. Maybe you could present her as something, or let the audience know who she was, whether it's a video package or an interview or whatever it is, but just throwing her out there and expecting us all to know, or assuming us to know. Not a fan of that personally.
No. Then Mercedes Moné is interviewed, backstage by a backstage interviewer guy whose name I didn't get. And then during the interview, the lights cut out. It's just pitch darkness. And then there's like sounds of her getting beaten up. And then when the lights come back on, Mercedes Moné's just like on the floor, beaten up. And the interviewer guy is completely gone. And I know this wasn't the intention, but that to me makes it seem like the interviewer guy just beat her up and then left.
Well, also the cameraman was on the floor with her.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Strange. It wasn't for me.
I think it's good that they're trying to do stuff with the women and everything else, and trying to come up with a storyline. I don't feel like they have to lump it all together, all the women's segments. Do you know what I mean? They can spread them out throughout the show. And I don't
So
know
we
why
just had the last match. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, well, because he had the Tony Storm thing, then we had that match.
The match, and then
it's like we can split it all up. Yeah, again, good at doing storylines. The execution, like you said, we just saw what like a backstage attack looked like with the punk thing, and it's like now with this, it's like the difference is pretty extreme.
Yeah, exactly. Like the juxtaposition, it just makes the Mercedes Moné one seem even more cartoonish than it was, because that style of like the blackout and the punchy sounds is literally from cartoons.
You're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I feel like they have everything they need.
Yes,
AEW, to like, they've got all the puzzle pieces in front of them.
Hang on. They do, except one thing.
A villain. Exactly. The final piece of the puzzle.
Seems so.
Okay, now the final piece of the night was Samoa Joe versus Dustin Rhodes. And I love both of these guys, right?
Yeah.
So like, this is what I want. This is what I'm looking for. And it was under 10 minutes. So I'm still like energized. So I really, really like this. Was this
also relating to WWE? Was it a case of someone kind of suggested that it was like the idea of Rhodes fighting for a world title, kind of like the week after his brother? Was that tied in or not really? Is that why they did it?
No, I didn't pick up or get that. I mean, maybe, but that would be subtle. That would be the level of subtlety that, might play out, but not the level of sledgehammer subtlety we had twice earlier in the match. But I actually don't think so. I don't know. I don't follow AEW enough to know where Dustin Rhodes is anyway.
That I would have actually liked if the story behind this was Dustin being like, my brother's gone on to win the title for Dusty. I want to follow in my little brother's footstep and do the same thing. I think that would actually been kind of cool.
That'd be cute. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I'd like that. Yeah.
But no, this seemed like, as expected, good match because they're both professionals.
Veterans, both
exactly.
Legit, yeah.
I think when I looked, I do have the ratings here as well. And it seemed like the ratings, they started high, which they normally do, dipped a little. They came up somewhat for the CCTV footage, and then it kind of dropped down and down to the point where I think the main event was the lowest rated segment, which I think is a shame. And it's probably, so they made it a eliminator match, which basically means that if Dustin wins, then he gets a world title shot. Okay. So at least there's some kind of suspense that maybe he could win. But saying that at the same time, even if he did win this to get a world title shot, we know he's not going to win the world title. So I just think maybe people I feel like you've got to build stuff where it's like there's unpredictability and people kind of care about the outcomes, if that makes sense. Wrestling fans, if they know who's going to win each match, then it's kind of like, what's the reason for watching? And to be fair, they had Shane Taylor Promotions beat Jericho in that earlier, which you could have seen as an upset. So that's good. That's a step in the right direction. But I think
Joe won this, by the way.
Joe won, obviously. And that's kind of my point. It's just kind of, even if they have a great match, is there any reason to stay watching and other than watching a great match? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
For some people, maybe.
No, a lot of people, absolutely.
But for the general people, if they want a bigger audience, like me, probably not.
Right.
That's
Totally.
So that was AEW Dynamite.
Hell yeah. Are we doing the ratings and stuff for
24.
this?
Yeah, I mean, we can do. Yeah, why not, hey?
What was your favorite match?
Oh, that's actually really difficult because I love complaining nonstop about long matches being long. I do think it was the Edge and Penta one.
Yeah.
It was too long for me, but I just really, really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Great starter match as well. And, it was a lot of fun. And for the worst match of the night, I guess it's a card. Like, it's just a squash. Like, what's the point of it? I mean, it's a squash match thing. Like,
not Punk and Jack Perry.
Oh yeah, that was the worst match of the night. Yeah, that was the worst fight of the night. Yeah.
And the overall rating for the show?
Yeah, I actually didn't mind this at all. I do have criticisms, as we talked about, and like they may seem nitpicky, but to me they aren't. Not like they really aren't. It's like why I can't watch. I don't want to. I will only watch AEW for the pay-per-views and for this podcast.
Sure.
Whereas WWE I choose to watch, right? And it's those things that hold me back from taking that leap. Everything that we've criticized.
Sure.
But just the event, it's just the show itself. Honestly, I thought it was pretty good. I think 3.5.
Oh, wow. That's pretty high.
What do you reckon? Yeah.
I don't think I enjoyed it as much as you, but I also did not hate it. I'd probably say right there in the middle for me, probably like a 2.5. I'd say.
Okay, cool. I also never watch it.
Sure.
So like it's still kind of new and refreshing to me. Like it's kind of nice to get away from WWE for a bit for me personally. Sure. Even though I love it. I love it. So I think that's So take my 3.5 with a grain of salt there, guys. All right. But pretty good. I'm glad we covered it.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear the listeners' thoughts about this because it seems like most wrestling fans have very strong thoughts
about all of this. Yeah.
All of this. So hit us up on the social media at the Villain Pod. At the Villain Pod. Or you can also email us mail@thevillainpod.com and give us your thoughts, or just shoot us a DM on Instagram. Like we normally get round to reading them all. So I would love to know what the listeners thought. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything, right, Sam? That's what we have time for.
Yeah, I think that's everything. I really feel like I've covered everything that I wanted to talk about on this show. And that is all we have time for. So have a good week. Till next week.